Good morning, Mike the MC, bringing another self-care video. Today I'm going to talk about number 60 of the Catechism with respect to being a part of the family tree, or the coaching tree if you're from sports, and connecting that idea with Abraham and how through the descendants of him chosen by God, how the Gentiles came into play, and how all of those actions really set the course for today's reality, the cultures across the world, and how basically, alluding further in the theme, how part of that family tree, that coaching tree, right, as in sports, how do you bring that success to other teams, and then hoping that your followers spread that success that you taught to them, so that way you make a greater influence in the world, a greater impact. So I think this will be a great topic to discuss, so let's get this started. So here's number 60 of the Catechism with respect to Abraham and God picking his descendants. So the people descended from Abraham would be the trustees of the promise made to the patriarchs, the chosen people, called to prepare for that day when God would gather all the children, his children, into the unity of the church. They would be the root onto which the Gentiles would be grafted once they came to believe. And that is a beautiful quotation itself right there. Once they believe, becoming part of the team, becoming part of a culture that is now winning, successful, that is part of a greater purpose now. When you look at favorite sports teams throughout history, different organizations, agencies even, what continues that success? What continues the legacy? Right? I always think of, okay, if you could pass it on through your family, okay, that's the first way I could think about. But if you don't have your family to pass it to your kids, to their kids, etc., and so forth, who would you pass your success to? And then I would look at coaching trees from sports. When you have good coaches that really can teach not just the players but the other assistants how to prepare the game plan, how to prepare the meal, how to prepare the practices, how to prepare, etc., etc., and just get everyone on board with the plan, I think that is when you as a coach become a much greater teacher than people give you credit for, because you realize, okay, if I'm going to pass success to this coach, and he continues that to other teams that he will coach for in the future, that makes me feel good in the sense that, hey, I did a good job teaching that coach for the future. I really, in a way, am teaching that other team how to win, how to prepare and how to win and pass that success to other teams and people. And really, that influence is something to reflect on as respect to each of us, and how really we are teachers in our own right. Now, some teachers will arguably say, well, all right, well, what about those that did not pass on their success to other followers? Why wasn't their family coaching tree as large as other teams? And I would argue, okay, maybe they weren't as good as teachers. Maybe they weren't passing on the success as well as other teams, coaches were doing from other dynasties in the past. And you look at that and you think, okay, I could see that being plausible, because if you're not able to pass your success to a successor outright in any way, the way you teach, then really, how do you value your coaching success in that regard? If you were just kind of in the middle, not really pushing to the top standard, the echelon to win the Super Bowl all the time, for example, right? And you look at these other coaching trees that really have all these rings to them because they came from the one main coach and it just continued on through all the successors, I would argue, okay, that's a successful coaching tree. That's a successful kingdom. And you can pass it to this theme as well. What is a successful kingdom? And that is where God connects this with Abraham, and how the descendants from Abraham helped the Gentiles and everyone around the world. And really, that is a beautiful thing about being a Catholic, in the sense that, hey, the faith is not just for Catholics, it's for everybody. Likewise, for every other faith across the world, I presuming, okay, if you have openings for people to want to learn and you teach new followers, of course. Let me put it like this. How can a population grow if it is closed off to other people? Very secluded. And I would argue that seclusion, segregation, is what really destroys communities. And yes, you want to protect your values, you want to uphold what you have believed over the centuries, but if you don't grow in some way, right, extinction is also a very real thing, and that'll take the better part of people around the world. And it is a sad reality when you lose some nostalgic tradition in your community because people weren't willing to listen and work together, pass on the traditions, and now everyone's just saying, oh, it was your fault, okay, you were doing this, you weren't listening to me. It becomes a blame game, and no one really were passing on the success. But you see, one thing I'm doing at my church as being an usher is allowing the younger catechist kids to be the ushers themselves, and that really is helping them not only overcome their fear of being in a public space, but now they're getting the confidence to do that skill. Once they get older and they realize, wait, I could come back to this position later in life. I realized that I was taught well. It doesn't take that much effort to really get into the flow of being an usher, but now that I know how to do this, I could pass this on to other people. And then for me as a teacher, it's like, yes, it's like, okay, they picked up that success. I could teach the next class next year, and so on and so forth. And that makes a dent. That makes an influence in your community, because the parents are saying, wow, our kids are really making a difference. Good job, Mike the MC. I'm like, no problem. See, and that's just a little thing. What are you going to do to help people in your community, your family? What are the traditions that are going to be carried on through you to other people? And I think that is the beautiful thing when you recognize, hey, I got my moment here in life. What are my imprint? What am I going to put into the mind of other people that to pass on that will be really worth it? That'll be beautiful for people who come after my kids to recognize, wow, that family really started something great. That was beautiful, and I want to be a part of that. And that is the beautiful thing of being a part of traditional, like a family restaurant. The first thing that came to mind, because once that restaurant got started and you put all the pictures on the walls, right? Think about it. You could share the memories. You could talk about the stories with customers. People hear that nostalgic history and they're like, wow, what a beautiful history you guys got. It's like, yeah, we do, because we never kept thinking to ourselves, okay, it's all me, 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 me. Part of the history must be passed on to other people, and you must have humility. And I think with regard to Abraham, that is the beautiful thing with regard to that part of the catechism, recognizing, okay, I'm given a huge task. How am I going to continue this task, Lord? What are you going to supply me the resources to get the thing going? And the thing is, it's belief. How that number finishes off with the catechism. Once the people believed, that's when they became a team. That's when they believed in what they were selling and buying into. Is like, okay, we believe that, Lord, you're going to supply us throughout the centuries. Let's get into this and let's keep building. And that is part of a successful team's success, because they bought into the belief. They believe that they can be great. And once you start to believe you're great and you start to win some football games, whatever games, sports, you start to become a dominant team. Teams, others, they start to see you and like, uh-oh, let's beware of that other team. They're starting to gain success. They're getting some traction. The wheels are turning. They're now becoming a success. Beware, because now they're believing in themselves. And that's what you got to hope for when you have a community of people that you're trying to inspire. The belief that they can do it. To believe to achieve. Right. Maybe that's the title of this theme. I don't know, of the video. But whatever. This is from me, Mike the MC, on Saturday. I hope this video finds you well. Remember, think of the traditions you want to pass on to people. And remember, believe to achieve. And you can help other people in your community. And that can spread and make an influence throughout your community as well. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day. Have a good one.